The alert tone sounded 11 seconds into the warm-up. I remember the exact count because I was watching the scan initialize, waiting for the baseline numbers to settle. And the tone was supposed to be impossible at that stage. Pre-deployment fitness screenings do not produce alerts during initialization. The subject had not even broken a sweat. She was jogging in place on the gate plate, arms loose, breathing through her nose. Her expression mildly bored. The expression, I would later learn, that humans wear when they are doing something they consider trivially easy. The alert read, cardiac output, critical cascade threshold exceeded. Recommend immediate cessation of physical activity and emergency intervention. I looked at the scan. I looked at the human. I told her to stop for a moment. She stopped. She looked at me the way one looks at a bureaucratic inconvenience. Her heart rate, at rest, was sitting at 81 beats per minute. By scifi standard, that is elevated, but not remarkable. The equivalent of mild anxiety. She had just been jogging for 10 seconds. I told her the equipment was likely miscalibrated and asked her to wait while I ran a systems check. The systems check came back clean. I ran it again, clean a second time. The diagnostic array was functioning within tolerances. The scan was accurate. I pulled up the raw output numbers and read them properly for the first time, and I will be honest. I did not immediately understand what I was seeing. The figure that had triggered the cascade alert was her cardiac output volume per minute, the total amount of blood her heart was moving. During 11 seconds of light jogging, the number the array had recorded was one that our medical literature categorizes unambiguously. It appears in our emergency intervention protocols under the heading, output indicative of fatal systemic failure. Do not attempt resuscitation. She was asking me if everything was all right. I told her yes, a moment longer, please. I called in my 2 junior technicians, Pel Amosi and Duvath Rek. They arrived assuming a calibration fault. I showed them the numbers without context and asked them to identify the Pel said, without hesitation, terminal multi-organ cascade. Likely, 2 to 4 minutes remaining, Duvath said. Alert the emergency bay, there is no intervention for output. This high the cardiac tissue is already failing. I pointed at the human. She was standing on the gate plate, rolling one shoulder in a slow circle, working out what appeared to be a minor stiffness. She had been waiting approximately 90 seconds. She showed no signs of distress. Her skin was lightly flushed. She asked politely if she could get a cup of water while we sorted out the equipment. Neither of my technicians said anything for a long moment. I asked the human to resume the warm-up. She stepped back onto the plate and started jogging again. We watched the numbers. 40 seconds, her cardiac output climbed past the point where our protocols stopped distinguishing between values. There is no category in scifi emergency medicine above that ceiling. The system had not been designed to record survivable readings in that range, because in every species it had ever been designed to measure, nothing survived in that range. The display simply read, reading exceeds instrument scale, confirm sensor integrity. The sensors were fine, the human was fine. She had moved from the jog into a moderate pace run and was breathing steadily, in through the nose, out through the mouth, pattern she had apparently chosen deliberately. Her expression had shifted from mild boredom to mild engagement, the way one looks at a task that has just become slightly interesting. Pel pulled up the comparative physiology files on his secondary panel. He found the entry for human cardiovascular parameters and read it in silence for a moment. Then he read it again. The resting cardiac output for a human adult at light exercise was listed as a normal range value. Normal range. The number that had crashed our alert system and crossed every threshold in our emergency literature was, according to the file, the low end of unremarkable. I asked the human to push the effort up. She nodded and lengthened her stride. The system produced 3 simultaneous alerts, 2 of which were error messages, because it had no protocol category for the readings it was now receiving, only a default flag that read, anomalous input, possible sensor contamination. There was no contamination. She was running. Breathing had changed. Still controlled, still nasal but deeper now, a slower rhythm settling in as her body found its pace. She was not straining. The scifi equivalent of this effort level, a trained adult at approximately 60% exertion, Deuce's readings our medical staff is trained to watch for, as as a sign of cardiovascular fitness. Those readings had been in her resting baseline. She was producing now, had no clinical name in our system, because nothing we had ever studied produced it and continued to function. Duveth asked, very quietly, how long humans could sustain this. I did not know. I looked it up while she was still running. The answer in the xenobiology brief was given in hours. I asked her to stop. She stopped. She was breathing harder now, a slight elevation, but she composed herself in under 30 seconds. She wiped her face with the back of her wrist. She looked at me with an expression that, in hindsight, I can only describe as patient. Is the equipment sorted? She asked. I told her the equipment was functioning correctly. Good, she said. So when does the actual test start? I did not answer immediately. I was looking at the scan data. The full 11-minute record of what her body had been doing, laid out across the display in a cascade of alerts and error flags and exceeded thresholds. Pell had pulled the emergency intervention chart and was holding it in both hands, as if he intended to do something with it, and had forgotten what. Duveth had gone very still. The human looked at the three of us. I can take a seat if you need more time, she offered. I filed the report that afternoon. I reclassified it 3 times before I settled on language that was technically accurate without requiring the reader to already understand what they were about to learn. The summary section reads, in part, the subject's physiological output during routine low-intensity exercise consistently exceeded the maximum values recorded in the diagnostic system's catastrophic failure alert range, and did so without measurable distress, structural damage, or deviation from the subject's own documented baseline. In the recommendations section, I wrote that the diagnostic array should be recalibrated before screening any further human subjects. The current system was designed to flag readings above a certain ceiling as unsurvivable because, in every species the system was built around, they were. It had never been designed with the assumption that a species might warm up there. I also noted, in the appendix, that the human had asked Ost for water twice during the 90-minute filing process, and had fallen asleep briefly in the waiting chair. Resting heart rate, when I checked the monitor before waking her, was 79.